Hands with Vitality on the blue side. Fizz, the fishy business, is gone over on the blue side. Rise is banned out once again. This time around, it is by Splyce, not Vitality. So already some small changes in what we're going to see.
This is just a red side kind of swap-up thing. Rise is going to be one of those bans that red side, for the most part, are going to be punished with having to ban, unless the blue team don't want to ban it away. I like the adaptation here, though, by Vitality. Take away the Vlad. Don't allow Splyce to set up a composition where they can maybe pick that as a last pick, because I don't know whether Vitality then would prioritize it themselves and just go, okay, well, we'll just take the Vlad away. I don't think that would have happened.
All right, so first jungle champion is away. With Fizz and Vlad banned, Vitality had Nidalee, Fizz, Rise. You've already mentioned Rise, some of that red side ban. So what's next? Kindred, Graves?
I don't
drop
think
the Graves?
I think the Graves gets dropped. Like, because, so Graves, his impact in the early game is fairly negligible. Like, he does have damage, and if you line up the Q, it's great. But he's a kind of a farm-focused jungler that gives you that damage, ultimately. So I actually think you can drop the Graves ban. Kindred will probably come out here from Splyce, and then we're in an Elise Rek'Sai kind of setup.
Oh, what a respect there from Vitality. Taking away Mikey's Bard. Removing it after that first game, after feeling the impact.
Yeah, first game on your, your LCS debut, and game 2 you get a target ban. That's a fair amount of respect coming out.
One of two reasons. Number one, you're a true threat on that one.
Yeah.
Or number two, they don't fear your next tier champion is as threatening. And with the Bard banned away, with Kindred and Graves still available, Braum is then the reply.
So, what is the first pick here? Lucian would be available if Police wants it. That is one of the ones we've commonly seen here as the first pick. Also, Elise, Kindred.
Now, would you give Kindred over? If you take Lucian, give Kindred Echo?
It's tough because now it's a priority thing, right? For the junglers is, do you feel confident and comfortable in giving away a carry jungler if you can get something for one of your other lanes? And that's been answered very, very quickly with all 3 picks getting locked in. Kindred on the side of Vitality. It's Echo and Lucian getting taken for Splyce. No real surprises there.
Okay, so now the no real surprises is done and dusted.
Yep.
Where do we look to next? What's the next tier? Maokai is up and available if Cabo wants it again.
Cabo could go for the Maokai route again. Like, that actually would now not be a problem because you have got yourself a more carry-focused jungler. Does Police still go the Caitlyn? I actually don't think the Caitlyn was the problem here, and Caitlyn into Lucian is fine. It just depends on how the rest of the map goes. So we may very well see the Caitlyn, and then flex something like a Trundle to the support, perhaps. But there still is a lot of options. That's the thing about 6-10. So many different viable options of what you can pick in this kind of scenario.
Which is nice, because today in the first few games that we've seen here on EULCS 2, there's actually been a fair amount of diversity.
Yeah.
The Maokai will be followed up with Ezreal. That's, again, another ADC that we've seen for the first time today on our stream. And I like that as well, because as the game scales, it just gives you so many more options with those Iceborne, Gauntlet-empowered Mystic Shots.
Yep, and it's a lane neutralizer. You can just now play away from the Lucian. Very difficult for him to actually kill you. If we do see a Trundle setup, Ezreal Trundle is fairly difficult to kill. We may even see a ranged support come out. Something like a Karma come out. Kind of provides that Sivir-esque play style where you kind of burst everybody forward. But still, we're waiting on those last
Sivir-esque.
It's like budget Sivir.
But I prefer budget. Budget Sivir is better, I think. Better describes it, I feel.
That's fair.
But a lot of options there for Kasing. He's actually played a lot of champions over the course of the last few splits in the LCS. And with Graves not banned away, actually has been locked in here for Thresh.
Now, what I don't really want to see Kasing do is go the Thresh route, because that has been where Kasing has trended to when it's available. And yes, Kasing's Thresh in days gone by has been very effective, but I don't think it's the right champion for this scenario here. I just feel like it then kind of forces you into a scenario where you're looking to play a pick composition, and if you can get the Maokai in, fair enough, but we'll have to wait and see what he goes for. On the other side, Graves did get locked in. That farming jungler that we were talking about will provide a damage threat. Oh, budget Sivir!
Not massive, and there's your Karma. Very well predicted.
Pair this with Alessandra, though, and now you have a real strong engage composition. with a little bit more versatility than the last one. You've got damage threats coming from everywhere.
One game played in spring on that Lissandra for Nukeduck. It was a victory. Very, very strong victory, 7-0-5. And when comboed with the front line of Maokai, some of the mobility and utility of the Karma and Ezreal Kindred, I quite like what Vitality have put together. So Splyce, how do they respond? They've got some survivability options with Trundle, with Graves, and Echo. And is it just going to be the safe Victor? Or what else can you run into this Lissandra?
Yeah, I mean, Victor is kind of fine. He gives you some sense of team fight presence as well. It's not quite the same setup that Lissandra has, but the damage, the burst potential is still there. Combo that with the Graves, with a Lucian. People could die pretty quick if Splyce get themselves a lead and get into fights before the Maokai, before the Ezreal are ready to actually fight this. But Vitality have themselves a real good setup as well.
So much better pick and ban this time around for Vitality. I think significantly less glaring weaknesses and more options, you know, more comeback potential if you trip and stumble at different points of the game.
At the same time, Splyce haven't really had to concede too much in this pick and ban phase either. When you look at it, it's only really potentially their jungle matchup that you would be looking at and saying, well, I'm really not so sure on the Graves right now. You can argue about the Trundle matchup as well, because Ezreal Karma is going to be so difficult to kill, but that Trundle is still going to have presence late into the game. No QSSing the Subjugate anymore, so that Maokai is going to have a whole lot of resistances taken away from him later on in fights.
Which is going to be very good for Splyce, because they need to get through Maokai to get through everybody else in the back line. Yamato Cannon taking step off stage and meeting Sean's in the middle. We load up for the second game here between Vitality and Splyce, and you know, as always, we can take a look at this team comps in a moment or two, but I want to see how this early game plays out. I want to keep my eyes on whether or not the lane swap plays out, and more importantly, whether or not Splyce can once again generate an advantage and a tempo lead just from the opening few minutes of gameplay. Because that is a true testament of a team cognizant and aware of, you know, their strengths and weaknesses.
That is very true. Well, we're going to have to wait for the first few minutes as we get into the second game.
That we are. Splyce this time around over on the red side, while Vitality loading up right meow on the blue side. We have two split series on EULCS2. 1-1. We can revive the old meme, the old adage. You know EU loves their ties. No one knows better than you, Stress.
Let's see if that meme has 9 lives as we load into this one. Vitality pushing through the bottom side jungle. Something tells me it's going to get old way before then.
Trust me, I've already killed it.
Yeah.
I have already killed it. I was trying so hard to avoid the Super Police Trooper reference in Game 1.
And Cobby and Mickey are trying so hard to avoid a 2 versus 2 in this game, because they've done one of the old ways of not giving the lane swap info over to anybody, and that's to send your duo lane right up into the bush in that lane and get yourselves into the lane on your own.
Well, we'll find out what they do and whether or not they get that advantage. Cobby, Mikey, nice and safe, no real threats here. Although, Police and Kasing, they have recalled and they have made their way up top, so we should see the slightly standard lane, which I think will give a headache to Cobby and Mikey.
But you can see Splyce are going to try and come down to disrupt any Gromp start, which isn't actually happening. Now the info is being given over, though, and the Mystic Shot tagging. Nose win now locked into Australia lanes.
Yeah, advantage Vitality. They get first damage in Game 2.
Got it.
Literally means nothing. But it sounded fun, didn't it? And I want to see how Cabochard now does against Wonderware. In the previous game, he fell a little bit behind because Wonder teleported into a lane that got CS and experience in gold much earlier. And that just allowed Wonderware all this additional freedom. But now Wonderware may have to earn that advantage this time around. Going toe-to-toe, going into a matchup which is better into Echo on the current patch.
That is very true. For those of you maybe that are wondering where the end of his name has gone, Wonder is now Wonder. The whereabouts of it, the police are still investigating.
Mikey's being investigated for a lot of damage. Death Ray goes down into Nukeduck, trading very heavily back and forth. Cobby and Mikey,
sorry,
despite coming away worse for wear in terms of hit points, they've got themselves a small CS advantage thanks to all of the trading and thanks to forcing Police and Kasing away from that combat line.
That is you look at that 2v2 matchup as well. Now it's going to be fairly difficult for Cobby and Mikey to actually have any kind of all-in presence against an Ezreal and a Karma. It's like any time that Trundle moves forward after the pillar, you're just going to get hit by that Mantrid W. You're going to get locked down. Either that, or you can pop the speed, hit them with the Mantrid Q, and stop them. Yeah, there's a lot of options with a Karma, and that's one of those utility factors. And you can see even running the wind speakers as well. So when you do pop that mass shield, everybody gets those added resistances. But, I mean, Police and Kasing should be fairly safe here. There's no real reason they should fall anytime soon.
Play this one safe and secure. Wait for some support from Senkax or from Trashy. And I think it's important to note that this time around Vitality have got the double teleports. In the previous game, Nukeduck obviously ran that LeBlanc, didn't have that same global presence. And this time around, Senkax with the Flash Cleanse has to be very, very aware of when his lane opponent is leaving.
Yeah, you do have to monitor that, and Nukeduck, of course, as you said, can TP, use that Lissandra to his advantage, get in, get a multi-person Ring of Frost, and lock him down, but it's going to be a tempered early game when you look at these setups. Nobody really wants to fight for a while. Mighty Bear wants to get himself a few stacks, farm up a little bit, but does he want to get himself a bounty is the question. He's looking to get right up into the top lane, as Kasing and Police had already pushed that out, so we may be getting our first little point of action right as Mighty Bear recalls.
Yeah, right
so
as recall. The
no
option
action.
was there. It was good timing, though, because Trashy had been making his way to that top lane, so if Trashy had decided to go in, then Mighty Bear could have done a counter gank. Also, about a minute ago, we saw the bottom Scuttle Crab being taken down, and that was the first mark of the Kindred for Mighty Bear, so going to start stacking that passive as well.
And there's an example of how safe Police should be. Trundle Pillar comes out, Mikey can't really push forward, shield goes on Ezreal, don't even burn through the shield, and can't really do any damage to the Ezreal. So yes, it's an exchange of mana at the end of the day, mana for cooldowns. So,
but I think it is important to note that Cobby's still up in CS. That very early trade, somewhat helping Slice out, just giving them that breathing room that if they lose a couple minions here or there, it's still Police catching up to the deficit that's been earned. Wonderware,
not level 6
Wonder
yet.
rather, a little bit of trouble, but really easy phase dive away. No real threats.
There's another trade top lane. You can see most of it absorbed by the shield. Still some damage done to Police that time. Cobby managing to get that piercing light. However, here is the point they can trade somewhat more. When that shield is not available, you can see Kasing having to burn through a lot of his mana. At some point may have to recall. Still has a couple of pots. But for now is okay. Australia lanes do signal a slightly slower paced game. No dragon fights really start. And with the TPs being used to get back to lane, bottom lane, it's not really going to get broken anytime soon.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that our first Cloud Drake as well?
It is.
So we've had a lot of water and mountain today. Teleports traded back and forth. So Cabo's already in lane. 47 CS with the Cowl, Pink Ward, and the Corrupting Potion. Wonderware rejoins with the Doran's Ring, Cowl, Pink Ward, and some regular pots. Chaos Storm traded just to push the wave out and get some damage onto Nukeduck. Not really doing a whole lot more than just that for Senkax.
Nukeduck trying to interrupt the recall of Senkax. I believe he even used the claw just to stop him from going back, but knew he was safe, knew that they'd had vision on Trashy in the top side. But a very, very slow-paced game. The same as the last one when you really look at it. It was Splyce who'd got themselves an advantage from the lane swap, and then after 10 minutes, started getting themselves a little bit more of a lead and opened the game up to fights. We'll see whether the same tempo will be held for a second game, but for now, Splyce going toe-to-toe, even with Vitality.
And now Splyce actually have to use a different player or a different initiation method, because what allowed Splyce to accelerate their lead was very good engages from Trashy's Gragas.
Yeah.
And you do not have anywhere near the same level of impact on a grade. So now it's going to be, actually, if you look at it, you don't have anywhere near the same level of engage. I'm going to say full stop.
Yeah.
You're so reliant on Wonder getting on with that parallel conversion.
Yeah, what you're looking for here is a Trundle Pillar as kind of that soft engage, plus then a flank advantage for Wonderware to come in from the side, drop that parallel conversion and get a multi-person stun, but that is difficult to do compared to what Vitality are running, which is, can we engage somebody engage.
Yeah, point and click on Karma, on Lissandra, on Maokai. Trashy, though, will get some good damage onto Nutak. We're going to cut down bottom. Wonder is being forced away. Despite Cabo playing very aggressively, Wonder's just basically ignoring him and farming away.
Yeah, Wonder knows he's got his ultimate available, so there's no real kill pressure from Cabo on that Maokai. Kasing wants to stop the recall.
Oh.
Gets Mikey's recall stopped.
It's going to be a frustration. Resolve, not going to be able to get the root down. True Shot Barrage just for effect, I feel. Police, Kasing, shove this wave in, allow them to back safely and shop.
Yeah, it was just allow them to push the wave fully in. Trundle on his own can either choose to sit there, get some of the farm, or sit there, hold the farm, because he's going to recall and get all of his health back anyway. So we may see one of the two here. Mikey, I believe, actually took a couple, and then was like, okay, I'll hold it for you. But nevertheless, Kobbe did get his recall off, got his first few items, as did Police. So fairly even setting top lane.
Yeah. And of course for the actual, you confuse me, it's top lane, but it's ADCs.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
Australia.
The Australian ADC lane.
Good day.
Wonders plus 15, but Cabo's going to be able to clear out a lot of these under the tower. Should be able to. Whereas Senkax is falling marginally behind. So these standard lanes drawing things out, approaching 10 minutes. Still very, very even. No pressure at all on the Dragon. I imagine that might not be the case for a little while. Not until either one of those bottom lane towers is down or a top lane trade results in the lane reassignment coming into place.
Yeah, and as we see a small trade top, Kasing is going to be able to get away from this. A lot of the reason for that is just that it's Cloud Drake, and Cloud Drake gives you 15 flat movement speed for every stack of Cloud Drake, which is really underwhelming. Like, 15 flat movement speed is not much at all when you look at it. I mean, boots give you plus 25. Yeah. Tier 1 boots give you plus 25. One dragon gives you less than Tier 1 boots. So until you get 3 and start running at people, you really aren't that prone to taking Cloud Dragon at all. That's why it gets left around for so long.
And continues to do so.
Yeah, and the fact that it's only out of combat as well. Yes. If it was in combat, okay, that's actually, you know, nice. You get to move around a little bit more, but still.
Gives you one extra step, one extra movement maybe.
Yeah.
That you can't have. Every single time we jump down, Cabo is just twisted advancing over and over.
But again, Wonder is the one that's actually holding his advantage here. He's trading his health in exchange for CS, and that is what is allowing him to have this CS lead.
And we need to see if the CS lead will convert into any other control. Teleport for Wonderway has to be impactful, because there's an additional one that will follow up from Vitality. So anytime a play does take place, Wonderway cannot afford to make a mistake. Right? He's looking for the pillar, but an arcane shift gets police away clearly. Yeah,
well, if Trashy can get himself in, no, there's a ward there, he's going to get spotted. I feel like Splyce, there's normally a team that are very jokey, very trolley, that kind of thing. Clearly taking this very seriously. There's bottom lane. Wonderway maybe caught this time extending too much.
More than maybe. The Flash Cabo follows through. This will be first blood to Mighty Bear.
Mighty Bear picking up that first kill on the Kindred. Wonderway here traded time and time again, over aggressively perhaps this time against Cabochard. Finally gets punished for it, and there was no answer from the jungler being topside, because Trashy spotted on a ward, they knew exactly where he was.
Really easy pickup and, you know, control patient play from Splyce. But unfortunately, it's Mighty Bear with a good CC combo that allows him to pick up the kill.
And this is the only real time that you're going to see this. You can see that Cloud Drake doesn't have the highest of damage. It's going to get taken down now. And this was the overextension. Wonderway didn't have a ward. Was actually going over to place the ward once Cabo had conceded a little room in the wave. And not only is this our first Cloud Dragon, Trevor, you just saw the insignia on the wall. Infernal is next for this game.
Time to fight, and hopefully so in about 5.5 minutes. We need to see what items can be picked up by then.
Yeah.
Because Rod of Ages was completed at 11 minutes for Nutak. He's had a very good laning phase, plus 10 over Senkax, and a completed recipe already. So whatever he can get in the next 5 will help out. I feel like Vitality at that stage will most likely be in a better spot in almost every role, maybe except ADC. Because Ezreal needs maybe 2 or 3 items, whereas if Kobbe can get that Ghost Blade completed, I think he may be the one that can help turn the fight.
Yeah, I certainly think that as well. And as we look at Senkux in the middle lane, is opting himself not for that rush to Mark 3 Hex Core. He's gone Mark 1 Hex Core and is now looking for that Rallies to get the slows, allow them to have a little touch more crowd control. The slow isn't exactly much to write home about, but sometimes it can be enough just to chain the crowd control and continue things. So won't quite have the super fast Chaos Storm that we've seen from a couple of mid laners on that Victor.
Luckily, if a fight breaks out in Dragon Pit, you don't need it to be super
That
fast.
is true.
So depending on the area of usage, I think it could work out. So 13 minutes in, just the one kill on the board. And extended farming. It's like going back a few seasons where you'd have 20 minutes of farming and then a team fight and then the winner of the game.
Well, that kind of is what's happened for now. But when you look at the Splyce lineup, I feel like I know why Mikey's having trouble in this game, Trev, locking down the duo lane from Vitality. As we say that, Kasing gets caught. You can see he's playing the wrong Trundle skin.
Okay.
If he was playing Constable Trundle, he'd have a much better time arresting Vitality here. The crowd control would land, he'd be able to lock them up, get the damage out. Come on, there's one opportunity to play against a player called Police and you don't pick Constable Trundle. Like,
Actually, I think there'll be many opportunities.
that's true. I just mean for Mickey.
Touché.
Mikey, Mickey.
The X is silent, right?
I believe so. Although Cotton X always, and Metal X, we always used to give him that.
Yeah, I've had a few angry people already saying you had to say the X. There's the logo once again for the Infernal Drake, which will be coming up next.
Interestingly, we spoke to Mickey, at the player conference, and he said, yeah, just whatever.
It is the attitude. We'll clarify that.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that.
We'll ask in an interview because, you know, that's
Live, on the spot. Be like, you have to pick one.
All right, there's the upgraded Hex Core once again, up to Mark 2. And, oh, this is problematic stress. Wonderware, no flash, has a Chrono Break available, and is being dove under the tower. 3-man from Vitality, Chrono Break puts some damage out. Mighty Bear gets himself a passive sack. That just looked really easy, well executed from Vitality.
Oh, way too easy. It was
stolen.
That was taken, yeah, secured by Police. As he manages to pick himself up that blue buff now. On for the counter dive topside. Victor's moving across, but he's not going to be there in time. Splyce, lack of crowd control might hurt them.
They want the blue buff back, but they won't get it yet. A flash away after the discount Sivir manages to give Kasing the moves. Wow! Kasing gets obliterated. And that is 6.10 Victor.
6.10 Victor, that ultimate is so scary when it actually hits. And I mean, you can see on the left-hand side, all of the summoners popped instantly by Vitality, and it wasn't enough. Nukeduck now topside.
He teleported in for this one. He's going to be able to claw out to safety. Forgot he had that spell and flash available, so I got a little more excited than I should have.
It's
regardless,
Hey,
Nukeduck stays alive.
Something happened, Trev, in the game. I'm glad you're right there ready to, you know, break into the action at this point. So Kasing and Police actually think they're safe here, by the way. After the amount of movement speed and damage and shields they've been able to put out, they just didn't have Senkux on the ward. And that means Kasing steps right into the disco ball and spells his death.
Head first, no less.
Never dive headfirst into a disco drop.
No, never, never, never. The glitter is very hard. Regardless, Senkux gets his first kill of the game. Would have preferred killing Police. Could have got the blue buff back, unfortunately unable to do so. And with the Dragon up in 1 minute, knowing it's Infernal, knowing you're going to have that additional damage against your opposition, I want to see just how much priority these guys put on it, because we'd like to think it's just going to be in team fight the moment it is up. But truthfully, you're going to need a couple of wards, and you need the teams to agree that it is worth that level of risk.
It's still also fairly quick to take as well. Infernal Dragon is the most comparable to the old dragons we used to have, where, you know, doesn't have really any particularly special combat stats or added resistances. It's basically the same. Cobby caught down by Nukeduck.
Cobby's in trouble. Ghostblade will give him just a few extra seconds
He
to
has
put damage
accepted
down,
fate.
but the kill will be secured by Cabochard. 15 seconds before the Dragon comes up, and Splyce losing some focus, losing some control this game.
And look at how far Kobbe was up without the right wards, without a tower as well. And that spells the end for him. And that's going to be the first Infernal Drake pretty much going over to Vitality. Mighty Bear's going to start it on his own. Wonderware's going to push topside at the same time. Should trade tower for Dragon.
And kill. So
And kill.
Splyce will be okay with the gold secured. No, very clever. Mighty Bear's in some trouble. Trashy's looking for the steal, but it's secured by Vitality. Infernal Drake picked up. It did cost an ultimate though. And Cowboy Shard looking to get away. Nukeduck and Mighty continuing to run, while the rest of Splyce may be able to siege on this middle lane. If Splyce can get themselves a second tower, maybe they come away in a better position, but that is asking a lot because there's simply no minions to play with.
Of course, that is now Ocean and Infernal for Vitality right now, so trying desperately to become the Avatar. Unfortunately, you can't get all 4 elements in a game, so yeah, not going to happen on this one. But for Splyce, it's a tower push again, so maybe 2 turrets for a Dragon. That is definitely worth at this point in the game.
So, after a falter in positioning by Kobbe, Splyce rebound by grouping and forcing Vitality's hand. Remember, Splyce chased Vitality through the jungle to delay that recall.
But the reason is a knock-on effect from Nukeduck having to, Nukeduck choosing to TP top earlier. It meant he didn't have his TP available to get back to mid lane after getting chunked down. He recalled out and then wasn't able to defend his tower. And now Splyce are on the back foot, but the tower is so healthy at this point that Vitality can't realistically push it down.
All right, so Splyce are able to defend. We have a very good game brewing. 3 kills to 1 in favor of Vitality, but 2 towers to 1 in favor of Splyce. I'm looking down the CS numbers, and Kobbe is once again doing a very good job. He's out farming his opposite number, getting very close to completing his second item, and Vitality are now grouping their way up.
So, 4 out of 4 games, Reptile has returned to the Void. 3 out of 4 games now, nobody's attempted it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Vitality, last game they started it too late. This time they're like, we're close to the timer, let's get the turret instead.
Tower, yeah.
Much more beneficial.
Wonder is alone in this top lane,
But
at
look,
risk of being dove.
There's no way Splyce can group in time. They have to concede this.
Looks like Splyce will be giving it up. A lot of damage coming into the tower. Maybe Kobbe can at least trade back. 2 versus 4. Here comes Mikey. Chrono Break has already been used, and Wonder decides to re-engage. Cabo's down to 1,000 hit points. The tower still stands. Kobbe was able to shove that wave down.
Senkux was trying to cut up through the jungle, and that's why Vitality did not want to stick around anymore. Kobbe didn't even finish his recall, so Splyce may have been able to kind of rectify this situation slightly. Now they forced Nukeduck to come to the bottom lane to accept that wave. Vitality managed to get back, but they did take that tower in the top lane.
All right, so small trades once again. Splyce were able to get the temporary gold advantage, however small it may be. Black Cleaver picked up here for Kobbe, but Elise has also got himself that mana immune. And for about 20 odd seconds, looking at some of the other big item pickups. There's no real surprises here. Cabo, however, I think a big difference from the last game is he's a lot more relevant. With the Sunfire Cape, with the Spirit Visage, he's in a very good position to actually be the front line his team needs.
And that's the thing, is he only needs to be frontline in this game. There's no responsibility on him for anything else, whereas in the last game you're looking at it and it's like, okay, well, Maokai's never going to deal damage. Let's not like put too much responsibility on him. But the fact of the matter is he had to try and make plays. At this point, all he's got to do is catch out anybody that's out of position and then they'll win the fight. As long as they get one member of Splyce down, team fights become fairly easy for this Vitality lineup.
Yeah, especially when a lot of their hard CC is just point and click. You know, the complexity to killing someone is a lot easier for Vitality. That was quite cool, Mighty Bear. Finish that one off in style. But Splyce, on the other hand, they're incredibly reliant on good vision and incredibly reliant on either Mikey or Wonder pulling off magic. I mean, Senkux can insta-give somebody, but not while Mighty Bear's around, not if it's a Cabo, for example. You know, he needs to find a squishy on the side.
Yeah, well, Vitality right now have decided they want to just sit mid for a while. 4 people in that middle lane, nobody dealing with Wonderware yet. Cabo is heading for the bottom side to deal with it. Now Nukeduck will cross over. Next dragon is Infernal again. So this one, you have to feel Splyce are definitely not going to want to give over to Vitality. Having that second stack of Infernal for extra AD and AP could be potentially devastating.
I mean, it's a big advantage.
Oh, yeah.
8%, you're starting to feel that. 22, 25, 30 minutes into the game. That jumps to 16% if Vitality can secure the next Drake. But I think, you know, I asked a question just before that challenge happened. Trashy went all in to try and steal. Mighty Bear needed to use Lamb's Respite to delay Dragon going down. There was a very, very real contest on securing that objective. And as it stands, Splyce have got decent vision around the pit, but it is being cleared out. You can see Cabo literally just killed a pink ward. About 45 seconds to a minute left.
Okay, so teams keep doing this, and this is like the 4th game out of 4 we're seeing this today. Look at bottom lane. Graves and Lucian have shown on Ward's bottom side, and it allows Vitality to take advantage of this. They know there's no way of anybody on Splyce actually arriving in time. It's a Hail Mary steal, if anything. Vitality have taken it. So again and again and again today, teams have been out of position and disrespecting the Baron attempt that is coming from mostly blue side teams, if I'm being honest.
And Vitality pull it off beautifully. 23.5 minutes, they secure
TP from Wunder.
First Baron. Wunder's TP'd in.
Oh, it's for the...
Infernal.
Okay, so they want to contest the Infernal Drake. And they want to contest it enough that they just use TP, despite the fact that Cabo and Nukeduck still had their TPs available. Nukeduck did TP in. Here comes Cabo in for the fight.
Dragon is not going to get secured yet. Lamb's Respite. Look at the damage onto Splyce. Nukeduck has destroyed their bars. Vitality picks up the second Infernal Drake. That's 16% additional AD and AP. Trashy and Senkux are low, running for their lives. Mighty Bear was the victim, but it doesn't matter because he got the objective.
Look at how much Splyce just committed to that. They're not done. Police and Wonderwear.
Wunder's looking for a kill, but he's caught behind enemy territory. Donates his life to Nukeduck.
So Splyce just overcommitted for that Drake. I have never on 6.10 seen a team preemptively TP in and then try and 50-50 anyway. And the fact is, that now is going to put Splyce significantly far behind because now that Baron is on Vitality, 2 Infernals plus the Cloud. Look at this engage here. Cabo just comes straight in. Nukeduck has got the lockdown on 4 with the ultimate then on himself to follow up. Again, the Kindred ultimate is disrupting the Dragon take, and then Mighty Bear can hold his smite for it. So Vitality come up trumps in that. Yes, the gold was fairly even before those turrets fell in favor of Vitality, but the buffs, the objectives on Vitality's side has put them way in the lead.
2,000 gold lead with those 2 Infernals. If we get closer to Elder Drake time, an Elder Drake will spell doom.
Yes, and you know what else will? A 3rd Infernal Drake.
You're kidding.
A wildfire of Infernal Dragons is about to blaze their way onto this rift, but Mikey's been caught.
Mikey's in so much trouble. Nukeduck should be able to pick this one up with a little bit more support. A flash forward from Mighty Bear, and Cabo closes it down with the Maelstrom. 5 kills to 2.
We may not even get there. Quick shot. We're getting to a point where Vitality, despite, as we said, a minor gold lead, are at a point where this Maokai, this Lissandra, always want to be going in. As long as their ultimates are available, just go in, take the fight. You're going to win it with this advantage anyway.
25% of Baron buff is still available for Vitality, and they're going to just knock over this top inner turret. There was a lot of work done earlier in the game. Splyce cannot contest. They've given up another kill. They've given up another tower. And that level of control, that level of lead and just very good heads-up play, proactive play from game 1, has not been relevant now that their team comp has had no engage.
Yeah, that is for sure. If you'll excuse my very bad fast maps, the 2 Infernals alone is giving Nukeduck like an additional 50 AP right now. Give or take a few, carry the 1, but it's a lot of damage.
AP, and it's all being used on Wonderwear. Kobe gets a good channel of the culling, which shreds Cabo Shard's armor. He's locked in place by the pillar. Trashy's not able to find it with collateral damage though. Nukeduck sends himself frozen and sends Kobe to the fountain. Now Wonder's running for his life. Mikey stays alive a few seconds longer on top of the respite. And Nukeduck picks up a kill. It's a 2 for 1.
2 for 1, and again, Vitality are coming out so far ahead right now. There is just nobody on Splyce outside of Senkux that is able to deal damage. You can see that Kobbe, he's got this build, which is very good for shredding out carries and part tanks. People that aren't building multiple armor items, but behind the resistances of Cabo that he's already got, plus the damage reduction, it's just difficult to take him out that he takes up so much time of Kobbe and allows Nukeduck to come into the fight. Kobbe tries to kite back, but Nukeduck manages to get the Lamb's Respite at that point, and Mikey just falls at the end of the fight. These fights are so easy, so simple for Vitality to pull off with this comp. This is why teamfight comps are so good right now, because you can easily force fights around objectives, and then when you're ahead, continue to force those fights.
Yeah, and every single time, Nukeduck is catching multiple members of Splyce. They're just simply too tightly knit, too tightly grouped. Splyce are now falling further and further behind. They're down 3,000 gold. Look, it's 28 minutes. It's actually not as substantial as it feels. Because it feels like Vitality are just leaps and bounds ahead. But that is also because of the composition.
Yeah.
Because of how simple it is for Vitality to make those plays work.
It's the hidden kind of stats and power, really, that are allowing Vitality to do this. I mean, you look at the sign of a Maokai that's got 2 items completed and the components of a 3rd. He's got his ultimate. He's even got additional AP and added damage from this, so it becomes an even trickier task to take him out.
Yeah.
It's a minor amount, but then you've got a carry jungler that has extra AD. You've got an AoE mage that has extra AP that is just adding up from these dragons stacking. And while the Baron buff may very well have expired, still Vitality have got enough lead to play on 3 lanes and continue to push.
All right, there's going to be a difficult question asked of the teams. 1 minute, 5 seconds until Dragon, 1 minute 20 until Baron. There's a very real world where one team could get 1 buff and the other
there is.
the second. Splyce have to make a good decision. 2 teleports available for Vitality, only 1 for 1.
And now, where do Vitality play the mind games? Do they allow Dragon to spawn and rush the Baron? Because you can let Splyce take Infernal Dragon #1 of the game to get Baron for yourself, and you still have 2, and you can continue to push. And you know the next dragon, if you get there, is Elder, and it'll amplify yours way more than it'll amplify theirs. There's a lot of mind games that can be played here. At the same time, Vitality can kill the dragon exceptionally quickly.
Yeah. And 2 teleports to thwart any Baron plays if there's enough vision around. A lot of questions that these guys need to figure out an answer to. Very, very different style of game, but one where Vitality have still not absolutely been in control.
Look at Vitality. They're setting up for the double TP play here off these wards that are behind Splyce right now. I believe it's a regular ward. It's not a blue ward. As soon as Splyce push into this pit, here's the double TP.
2 teleports coming in. Mighty Bears, Dance Devourers out of the pit. Lissandra, Maokai, they're running down the river. Dragon should be secured. Oh my lord! The damage! Splyce are just killed where they stand. Vitality secure their 3rd Infernal Drake of the game. Get themselves 2 kills. And hell, they can take Baron if they want to.
They can look for anything right now. Vitality spring the trap. It's an easily laid trap for Splyce. They had to try and do something to prevent Vitality from getting that wildfire of 3. And I mean, Vitality, they've got the Baron right now. Nothing can really stop them, as you alluded to. And Splyce, right now, with the gold lead previously so close, you would say, well, maybe Splyce still have a chance in this, but look at just the sheer advantages that come into this fight. Flash from Nukeduck. That damage is insane coming out from this Lissandra right now. The setup for the fight, they hardly even needed Cabo there to lock him down in the end of all things. And Vitality have pretty much closed this game out, and they're going to fire back in the 2nd game of this best of 2. This one's pretty much done.
Nukeduck has got 460 AP without a death cap. That is a lot of ability power, and Vitality have just played this game significantly better. You know, Mighty Bear won the early game for Vitality, and now he's going on. He's effectively 1v4. True Shot Barrage flies across Splyce. Lamb's Respite buys all the time that Vitality need. Nukeduck's coming up through the river. Kobbe's culling does a lot of work onto Mighty Bear. He's finally shut down. Nukeduck's looking to win the fight. Gets tagged by the Time Winder, and Kobbe's going toe-to-toe. QSS will buy some time, but truthfully, Splyce are just too far behind. Nukeduck comes back in, Double kill for Cabo to close it out. It's a 1 for 3 in favor of Vitality.
Even Kasing's damage in this fight is, not to be overlooked. Cabo had 3 people on him. He's so far ahead in this game that it is almost impossible to kill him. And Vitality, they've got the Baroned up minions. This is pretty much going to be the end of game 2.
It looks like it. 30 seconds on the clock for Splyce to try defend with a jungler and a support. Nukeduck has a few more seconds before the tomb is available. Police and Kasing making their way in. Nexus turret number 1 is the target. Vitality will take this one down. Cabo's focusing, actually tanking up the Death Ray laser before he's forced to peel away. The rest of Vitality look to take down the second tower. There's no real resistance from Splyce, and Vitality, they bounce back. Kobbe gets locked in place where he stands. The Nexus is being focused, and it is taken down. Vitality, 1 point to the Summer Split. 2 series, 2 splits on the day. And both games, the underdog pulls off a surprising, maybe, game 1 win, only for the favorites to bounce back in game 2.
And I mean, this is where the discussion comes out, right? Because in some sense, Splyce and Roccat on the day may very well end up happy with this result, stealing 2 points away with good victories, solid victories. They'll also be disappointed not to take 3 for themselves, but when you look at the game 2s, our day series have actually been very similar. The favorite team, as you said, bounced back and dominate the second game. I mean, yes, there wasn't a massive gold lead for Vitality the entire way through that second game, but the Dragons stacked up. They got the 2 Barons. They punished Splyce for being out of position. And Vitality pick up 3 Infernals and just run right over Splyce in game 2.
I also think there's a few key takeaways from both of the series, right? Because H2K bounced back in a significantly stronger fashion. The way that they crushed Roccat in their second game of the day, in contrast to how controlled, how much slower, how much more tempered Vitality were. And on the same token, the way that Splyce played when they had a lead, when they had a team comp advantage, was admirable. But the problem is, you're not always going to have that 6v4 team comp, dare I say, where your opponents somewhat counterpick themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just... It's a weird scenario here where you look at it and how exactly things are going to play out with the fact that, it's a